What is the thing that surprised you the most when you traveled to a country you had never been to before? My first trip to New York. Entering the subway. Someone walked in front of another person, causing them to break their stride for a fraction of a second, which led to the following exchange without pause or hesitation from either party. Shouted at each other as they walked in opposite directions. "You're an asshole." Quote. "Your mother's an asshole." Quote. "You don't even know who your mother is." Quote. "She knows you're an asshole." Quote. Fade. Northwestern Australia. I knew it had a reputation for being ridiculously hot, but legitimately didn't know Earth got that hot and humid. I thought I was going to pass out leaving the airport. I walked out of Penn Station when I first arrived in New York, looking up at the buildings, taking it all in, and my first interaction was with a homeless guy who shouted at me in the local accent, "Welcome to New York, asshole." It was exactly as I imagined. That it's possible to weave through Cairo traffic with the skill of a seasoned rally driver, while driving a manual transmission car, frequently using the horn and sipping tea, by holding the saucer, not the cup, at the same time. Shout out to our taxi driver in Cairo. From a tropical country near the equator. I was surprised to know that the sun would set completely before 4 p.m. during winter, or having the sun still up at 10 p.m. during summer. The amount of eye contact and observation. When I went to Morocco, in the evening the streets would be packed full of families sitting and talking. These people would watch each other. In fact, even the way I'm describing it with "watch" shows how unwelcome and uncomfortable it would be in England. People would also make eye contact and keep it frequently on the street, just with ease. It felt so strange for me at first. People who take out their phones to record strangers who are having bad days. Why? I lived in a place where there was this small dam, with a road running along it. One winter an elderly couple slid off the road into the water. It wasn't deep, but deep enough to drown if you are sitting down in a car. The first guy who pulls over leaps out and into the water and start trying to force his way into the car to pull them out. In a few moments later other people pull over. Everyone pulls out their phones. Not to call the emergency services. No. They start filming. The guy in the water screams at the other to help. To call the emergency services. To get in the water and get the people in the car out. Eventually the emergency services get there. One of the two in the car is dead. The other in a coma from hypothermia and an oxygen deprivation. They awake some days later to learn their spouse drowned. I don't actually have an answer to your question, but this was what it made me think of. And I just can't figure out why the fuck people would be like this. And how the hell they live with themselves. There was this really bad accident one town over where this dude from out of town ran past a stop sign and slammed into a van full of 3 or 4 children. The mother and the father. Some weren't wearing seat belts. The father and son in the van survived with some injuries. The mother had a brain injury. 3 children died. 1 was unborn. The father recorded video after video about the event that happened. He documented every painful thing that happened to help him cope with what happened. He shared it all to Facebook to reach out to the community for help. This is all fine. But this man's wife had just lost 2 babies. And her unborn baby. She was in a coma, unlikely to wake up. In a turn of events, the wife woke up and began to rally. This is where I became grossed out. Shortly after she woke from her coma, the husband pulls out his phone and records himself telling his wife that they lost 3 of their children. He puts the phone in her face rather than console her. Then, he posted it online for the hundreds and hundreds of people following the event on Facebook. This woman just got out of a coma. and just received the worst news of her life. And this man put it online for the world to see. Absolutely disgusting. The wife died later on too. Terrible situation. I can't claim to know what I would do if it were me. But it was awful to see. Especially the ones that use filming you as a threat. I was just doing my job one day when this customer got extremely upset because she wasn't getting her own way and got her phone out and stuck it in my face and started filming. I really wanted to grab it out of her hand and launch it as far as I could, but luckily I didn't take the bait and kept my job. New Year's Eve. The year 2000. I was working security for this event. Fireworks show was over at the local park. Everyone was leaving, and I heard a terrible scream behind me. A teenaged girl had fallen out of the tree she'd been in to watch the fireworks onto the park bench below and busted out her front teeth. She was squealing and howling, and I got her to open her mouth so I could assess the damage. It was not good. Teeth were broken off just below the gum line. Her jaw didn't seem to be broken though. So there was that. And there wasn't a lot of bleeding. I held her hand and told her that it was going to be all right. That the damage was fixable. That I'd had my own front teeth busted out. And they'd fixed it just fine. Gave her my winning smile. You really can't see the damage. I'd just gotten her down from screaming to crying when her mother showed up. I stood up to get out of the way. And found there was this fucker. Looked like a college student. Accompanied by some girl of the same age. Standing there not 10 feet away with a video camera and a smile. Filming this with great intensity. Like it was the most exciting shit he'd ever seen. I stood up to face him. WTF is wrong with you? Quote. Less than the camera turned to me now. His smile got even bigger. Oh boy, this video was just going to get better and better. Greater than. This girl is having the worst moment of her life. And you're what? Gonna film it so you can enjoy it in the privacy of your own home? Quote. At this point I saw the change on the face of the girl he was with as it dawned on her that she was with a creep. She gave him this look of cautious disgust, concern and said, Jake. Stop. We need to go. He kept filming. He was just totally transfixed by it all. She looked at him for about 4 long seconds. I'm leaving. Now. She announced. And walked away. He decided to reluctantly follow her. But walking backward. Filming me standing there looking at him until they disappeared into the crowd. I've sometimes wondered, when he viewed that footage later, if it was really as awesome as he imagined it would be at the time. I think probably not. One time I witnessed a car accident. A public domestic that transformed into the male hopping into a car and screeching away the wrong way down a one-way street into oncoming traffic and crashing at moderate speed. As the woman related to the male in the car collapsed at the side of the street weeping and screaming. I called the emergency services to get help. Out of 50 or more people on the street that day, only one person called 999. More than 20 people lined the road to film and gawk instead of help. I was a little sick of humanity that day. Me and my friend were wearing our bathing suits at a water park and one of the staff members was taking video of us. So, I went up to him and freaked out demanding he show me he delete it. We were like 14 at the time and he was probably like 50. Now that I'm older and wiser, I should have reported him to the water park. Deaf people of Reddit. What was the most underwhelming sound, respective to your expectations? My friend said grocery cart wheels making a sound was both surprising and irritating. I was 90% and 75% deaf at 6. After surgery I recall crying at the vacuum cleaner for a while. It was so loud and the noise overwhelmed me. My sister refused to get hearing aids for the longest time. She finally got some and she said the first thing she noticed was like a weird popping sizzling sound. It was the carbonation in her soda. There was a thread along these lines at some point in the past and I remember someone commented that they were surprised the sun didn't make any sound when my uncle got cochlear implants. He spent the whole next day wondering what this constant, obnoxious, ugly noise was. After hours of searching, found out it was the clock ticking. He questioned why the hell it needs to make noise. I suppose without having it tuned out, it would be pretty annoying. On a happier note, when he first got them in, he cried with happiness when he realized his brother sounded different than the nurse. Oh man, where's that guy with the story about going to a deaf college and hearing everyone's insanely loud fucking with the windows open because none of them could hear and didn't realize how loud they were? I can't imagine the level of embarrassment one of those poor kids would have had if they'd gotten cochlear implants in the middle of the year.
Subscribe, my brothers.